Hello, in this new video. Today we're going to take a look at the best team for the Galar Cup Little Edition. This cup is going to be available for 2 weeks, so if you don't want to play Great League or the Ultra League, which is going to be available at the same time, like for the first week Great League, for the second week Ultra League, this might be the cup for you. I saw some people asking me to do the video in the comment section, otherwise I actually would have not done this video yet, because I know a Little Cup is a lot of times not as interesting, but especially as we have this cup available for 2 weeks, I guess it is kind of important to take a look at it. And so we're going to do exactly this today. We're going to have 10 teams here for you as well. And of course, if you enjoy this type of videos, I would really appreciate it if you leave a like and subscribe. We already had a video yesterday about some top teams for the Open Great League. There's going to be another video for top teams for the Open Great League later on today as well. I'm going to try to see what suggestions you had as well in that video. But anyway, it's going to be linked in the end card, and so check that one out. But anyway, let's start right into the meta. Taking a look now at the meta, we're going to see here that Shackle is going to be the best Pokemon for this meta. We're going to have Bronzer on the next spot basically afterwards, but there are a lot of cool core breakers for them, which you're going to see now in the top teams as well. We have Purloin here as a very strong Pokemon with the Sucker Punch buff, and a lot of Pokemon got a big buff this season. We have Swift on the Zigzagoon, which is going to make it a bit better. I think, did it have Body Slam before? It actually had Body Slam before, which now Swift is going to be the better move apparently. We're going to have a Barboach again still, even though the Mudshot got kind of nerfed, but I think it's actually a little bit better, maybe even for the Little Cup. And yeah, otherwise we have a lot of cool Pokemon. Ponyard, very good Pokemon, which you're going to talk about a lot in the top teams as well. And a lot of decent saves up as well, like Skorupi and whatever. And I actually do think this cup is going to be a lot of fun, but it's a little bit difficult to get some of the Pokemon. For example, Pangoro here. This Pokemon is very, very strong, but it has to be between level 6 and 7, which is quite difficult to get unless you have like a very small variant of it, like still running around from one of the events where it was spawning. Which I think was mainly like Go Fest and stuff like this. So there are a lot of cool Pokemon, a lot of interesting ones. We have a team with Hoot coming up, so stay tuned for that one as well. And this is going to be it for the meta. But I still think that this cup is actually playable. Bronzer and Shackle, of course, going to be very much the Pokemon you want to counter, but there's a lot of fun that you can have with this cup. So let's move on to the top team. Moving on now, we're going to take a look now at team number 1. We're going to have Pangoro and of course the bulky boys in the room. We're going to have Bronzer and Shackle. Really depends on what you kind of want to run. Confusion makes sense on Bronzer, but also I like Tackle on this Pokemon quite a bit. Tackle going to allow you to have a little bit of a better neutral matchup against other Bronzer as well. Might be helpful as you might be able to bait them out. But yeah, Pangoro lead, Bronzer, Saysop, and the Crustle in the bag. The Shackle in the bag. As you can see here already, just based on what we can beat, it is a great team to use. Like, this is basically the best team that you could use. If you have every resource available, it is going to be definitely the team that you want to run. Pangoro itself is a little bit of a trickier Pokemon to get for this league, of course, needing, I think, to be like level 8 or 5 or something like this. So like you really need a very small Pancham, which you're also only going to be able to get from Wild Spawn. So like, yeah, definitely a Pokemon that's a little bit tricky to get, but still a very solid team nonetheless. Team number 2. Here we're going to have my favorite core breaker of this meta in it. We're going to have the Ponyard. Ponyard is going to be great for this current meta because if you take a look at the top 2 Pokemon, we're going to have of course Shackle and we're going to have of course Bronzer. Those 2 Pokemon struggle hard against that Ponyard. Ponyard is going to be able to beat both of them as you have Night Slash as well as Iron Head as super effective coverage for both of them. As you can see here, Ponyard is going to be the best meta breaker for this upcoming cup. So if you have one built for 500 CP level, this definitely going to be something that you want to run. Having next to Fury Cut are going to allow you to get energy also quite fast, and Night Slash Iron Head is great coverage for the current meta. Only Pokemon like Diggersby or Barboach or like those ground type Pokemon generally speaking going to be difficult, and as counter users are not as common anymore anyway, you're going to be fine usually in this meta as well. Only Pangoro and like the Machop line is going to be something you have to be worried about. The rest is going to be fine, and so Ponyard, in my opinion, the best Pokemon for this meta, and it's not even that highly ranked, which is kind of mad. Wobbuffet, actually interestingly enough, higher ranked than the Wynot. If you have a Wynot, you can use Wynot instead here as well. Drapion is going to be cool Saysop. There are a lot of different options compared to Drapion as well that do exactly the same. So you can also use the pre-evolution, and there are some other dark and poison type Pokemon that you can run as well. Next up, we're going to have a team that I actually want to make a little bit even more toxic, but we're going to have a Charmer, we're going to have the Purloin as well as the Drifloon. Purloin is a very cool for this meta. If you have a Shadow Purloin, this thing actually has quite a lot of play, as you're going to have Sucker Punch plus Night Sash. That is a deadly combination, but not only this, Play Rough is great coverage for this meta. If you're going to take a look at the top meta here, of course you have the other Purloin, but you have Mandibuzz, you're going to have the Zigzagoon Galarian form. And there are going to be quite a lot of Dark-type Pokemon available for this cap, where you're going to have now super effective coverage against, which is going to be lovely. Sazop is going to be the Drifloon here for this team. Being a very neutral, especially with the Icy Wind as Tonish combination, going to be a very strong Pokemon to run. And in the back we're going to have Cottony. This team can sometimes struggle maybe a little bit against Shackle, but usually it's going to be fine, and so I wouldn't be too worried about it. Team number 4 here, we're going to have Bronzor in the lead, we're going to have the Sazor of Skorupi, not being a dark type I think. Skorupi is I think a poison and bug type Pokemon, and it might be better to have the Drapion here to be fair. One reason for this is going to be the fire type weakness of your lead and the Sazor, but it really depends on what you want to run. But yeah, Skorupi is fine, Drapion is fine, both of them are fine, but Skorupi going to give you an extra weakness to fire, which is you with a Ninetales matchup as well, while you have Awkward Tail of course to do some decent damage. I guess you could go ahead and also just flip the team a bit. Go for Mandibuzz in the lead, go for Bronzor in the back there, and I think you're going to be fine as well. So yeah, it really depends on how you really want to approach this one. But you could even use your Skorupi as a potential Pokemon to bait out other Fire-type Pokemon, as you can still punish them with Awkward Tail, so that would be also an option, but this team still going to be a very strong one to run for the upcoming meta. Team number 5 is going to be a classic one here. We want to have Flyer, Double, Ground. You can use different kind of flying type Pokemon for this one. You can use different kind of ground type Pokemon for this one. There's Pokemon available like Whiscash as well, for example, that you can run, or the Wooper. But yeah, Togetic, a very cool Pokemon with the Fairy Wind buff, having also access to Aerial Ace and Ancient Power, going to give it fast coverage, which is quite important for this current meta, especially for LilyKatchum, because you kind of really need this kind of stuff. But of course, you're going to struggle quite a bit against the 2 top tier Pokemon of Bronzor and Shackle. But it's not going to be the biggest issue, because Bronzor and Shackle are going to be quite rare Pokemon. I guess like Shackle more than Bronzor. I don't think a lot of people have Shackle built, because Shackle is usually not allowed, but I guess for this cup it very likely is allowed. But yeah, DGSB is going to be a Sazop here, Balwatch going to be in the back. You can also completely change it around. You can also use DGSB as a closer. It doesn't really matter. Like both of them are kind of doing the same kind of stuff. But yeah, in this case we're going to have Balwatch as a closer. You can bait out. Actually, I think DGSB is a better Sazop, because you can bait out potential grass type Pokemon and punish them with a Fire Punch, which is kind of cool. And so I would recommend you to actually still keep the DGSB like we have it here as your Sazop. Team number 6, we're going to have Shackle Double Fighter. This is kind of a very toxic line. It's kind of similar to like Bastion Double Fighter, which we had before as well quite often. Shackle going to be able to just beat every kind of flying type Pokemon. Machop trying to bait them out, and then we're going to have Pangoro in the back to counter them basically as well. Only Shackle, I guess, is the hardest answer to this team. The rest we can deal with as well. Even though, of course, Shackle against Shackle in the lead is going to be a very neutral matchup. But also, you can still deal actually. Like I don't know how Shackle wins against Machop and Pangoro, by the way, because it's running a pure rock type moveset, which is going to be resisted, of course, from the fighting typing. So not too sure this is actually going to work. I think the matchup is way better than PvPoke actually shows here for Machop as well as Pangoro against Shackle, but we're just going to leave it for that. But this team is going to be overpowered as well. Like definitely a team that I would recommend you to run. Can be a little bit tricky though if the opponent is going to have something like a Bronzor on the lead. You can use other Sazors as well, for example like Purloin or Mandibuzz, which would work out as well, but I like this one quite a bit. Team number 7 here, we're going to have a lead that's going to be double good against fighting type Pokemon. We're going to have a Sazop that is going to be not as great against fighting type Pokemon. Actually, I would recommend you for this team here, I cannot make the mistake. I would recommend you to go for Zigzagoon Sazop, because Tackle is just doing more fast move pressure. The cool thing about Zigzagoon is you're going to be able to just go for the 2-shield scenario against a lot of Pokemon and just align yourself, which is very important for this team. So if I would recommend your Pokemon to go for, I would go for the Zigzagoon as a Sazop, not the Pawniard here. That's a mistake on me. But you have basically a Pokemon that's double good against fighting, as both poison as well as fairy type is going to resist it, and then you're going to have 2 Pokemon in the back that are double weak to fighting. So basically you're going to be able to bait out any kind of fighting type Pokemon if they even exist in this meta, because they're kind of difficult to get. With the Sazop of the Zigzagoon, and then having a Pawniard in the back, which I told already before is one of the best core breakers for this meta. Weezing also looks very good, but again, Weezing is very difficult to obtain, but there's not really a great other Pokemon other than Weezing for this kind of slot there. You can try other poison type Pokemon as well to have like a classic poison double dark line, but Weezing is just a little bit better and unique. Next one, we're going to have Barboach in the lead, and we're going to have the reverse variant of the team that we had before. We have Hoot though as our Say Swap, and this Pokemon is underrated. Having access to Feint Attack and Nightshade, going to make it a great Pokemon to counter out the Bronzor. And that's kind of the idea behind it. You have a Bronzor answer, you have a Pokemon that a Bronzor might want to swap into, and as Nightshade got buffed this season, this Pokemon like Hoot now actually has a lot of potential for this meta, which is quite ridiculous. So definitely a Pokemon that I would recommend you to try out here for this one, but again, the core of Barboach and the Togetic is nearly perfect, and then Hoot is just a great Pokemon to bait out Bronzor. I like this team quite a bit, so if you want to try this one out, feel free to do so. Team number 9 here, we're going to have the buffed Mudslap variant of the Rhyhorn. I kind of want to, of course, have a little bit of focus as well of like buff Pokemon here, and Rhyhorn is going to have a lot of play in the Little Cup meta. While Stomp and Bulldoze are not great charge moves, the Fast Move alone are making it a very strong Pokemon to break, especially the top core of this meta, which is going to be lovely for Cottony because Cottony can pick up the other pieces basically. Cottony is going to be able to beat all the Dark-type Pokemon, being able to beat all the Fire-type Pokemon, but also being able to beat all the Water-type Pokemon. So this makes Cottony plus Rhyhorn a perfect core, and then you can use kind of any normal Say-Swap in the between. Doesn't have to be Drapion. Anything that is kind of functioning as a Say-Swap is going to be fine here. You can even run Double Charm if you want to, but yeah, that is up to you, of course. And for the final one here, we're going to have a little bit of a fun one here as well with like a triple buff team of Karate Chop Pangoro, Runerigus or Shadow Claw, as well as Brutal Swing now, as well as Astonish Shadow Golett in the back. Astonish Shadow Golett, I think it has a lot more potential, especially in the two-shield scenario, but as you're going to see here, this team is kind of great against the current meta. I still have no idea how Shackle wins the matchup against Runerigus and Golett, but we're not going to talk about it or against any of them. Like every single move of Shackle is resisted against our Pokemon here and still wins against everything, which is mad. But you have great potential against basically everything in the meta. Drapion should lose against the Pangoro as well, usually. So, like, this is going to be a very solid team to run as well. So, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you later for a top team video for the Open Great League. Bye-bye.